A few weeks ago, Lori spoke about being on retreat, and a monk asked if he could hold her hand as they walked. And there was something so lovely in the way that she described this. She shared a little bit of her internal dialogue. Am I holding his hand too tight? Am I holding it tight enough? Am I sending enough loving kindness messages to him? And I think, oh, the loveliness of wanting to connect, wanting to be sensitive to how we connect. Yeah, the vulnerability of this. From a Tibetan perspective, feelings, all emotions are regarded as sacred if we learn to befriend them. If we learn to befriend them, they are seeds of our wisdom. If we can't befriend them, they cloud and distort our vision, they cover up our vulnerability, and they make it very difficult for us to connect. They interfere with our capacity to connect. Now take resentment. We can be really caught in its grip. And when we're caught in its grip, compassion is really difficult to feel. Nelson Mandela said, resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping your enemy will die. It hurts us. Bill so often has emphasized that feelings are not the problem. The problem is how we relate to them and how we can act out of them, as Catherine was talking about Monday and Tuesday. So every human emotion as a part of awakening. No feeling to be denied. If we abandon or neglect or dismiss our feelings, really, how can we expect to be able to empathize with others? If I can hold a difficult feeling with some kindness in me, it makes sense that I'm going to be more able to hold it kindly with others. I mean, don't you find that so often what is intolerable in another person is something that we're not at peace with inside of ourselves? Something we dislike in others, we also dislike in ourselves. David read for us this beautiful felt sense prayer in which the body is really beseeching the body occupant, that's us, to listen to it, to attend to it, to not ignore it. And it's the same for our feelings. They need us to listen too. They have a lot to teach us if we can learn to listen. Mindfulness seeks to understand, not to judge. That's the aspiration. We all have parts of ourselves that are difficult to turn toward. There may be even some feelings or parts of ourselves we feel should not exist. Years ago, after Ferguson, I listened to a Dharma talk given by Lama Rod Owens. He is an African-American Buddhist Lama. And he was speaking on racism. He asked us, if you look around the world, Do you see intolerance, cruelty, rejection, unkindness? And we're like, yes, yes, of course, we see it. We know it's there. And then he shifted the focus. He said, okay, now look inward. Do that U-turn that Catherine spoke about. Look inside. Can we see in ourselves the parts of ourselves that we have banished, exiled, feel shame about, ignore, turn away from? The way that we too can be unkind, maybe a little cruel. These parts of ourselves suffer. And this is where this practice is so valuable. Susan often says, love everything into the fold of mindfulness. Well, it is difficult to do this when there isn't an atmosphere of friendliness. And here, I think, is really where the rubber meets the road. Here is where we need the deliberate intention, the wise intention to choose how we want to respond, to begin to really choose how. Those monks chanting the Metta Suttas as they were protesting the violent behavior in Burma, the deliberate intention to not close their hearts, even in extreme circumstances. That's a fierce metta practice. The Dalai Lama was asked, is there anything that you were afraid of? And he said yes. He was afraid that he would hate the Chinese. That's a fierce, deliberate metta practice. Soni Rinpoche is a Tibetan teacher with a wonderful sense of humor and playfulness. He teaches a practice called the handshake practice. And the handshake practice begins with an embodied welcoming posture, much like we set up the holding environment. A welcoming posture toward anything that is arising to the best of our ability. We're learning how to cultivate that willingness and that deliberate intention to move toward a loving and kinder response to whatever it is, whatever might be floating by, knocking on our door. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations, or maybe just an annoying person. We're learning to be more intimate with our awareness. We are learning to recognize the grip of the I, me, and mine, and open to a mindful view that is deeper and wider, big pasture. And today I'm just going to weave in a little bit in our sit, a piece of a benefactor practice. And I'm going to ask you to bring in a feeling that you would like to work with. Nothing hard, very light touch. I'll talk more about that in the instruction. He refers to our difficult feelings as beautiful monsters. Beautiful monsters. Something intriguing in these incongruous words. Monsters aren't beautiful. They're big and frightening, grotesque, ugly, cruel, mean. And there's a whole jungle of them in here, right? Desires, confusion, shame, hurt. The list is almost endless. They're here. And we want to keep them out there. Monsters because they can grip us. Beautiful because they can be our teachers. They have a wisdom to offer us. Maybe like a crying baby, they offer more things to love. He demonstrates what happens inside in a really playful way. And I've seen him do it many, many times. So I'm going to just be playful with you guys and show you a little piece of it. Okay. Here I am. And here is one of my beautiful monsters. Now, I may want to suppress it. Really suppress it. Maybe lecture to it. Haven't you learned by now? Are you still upset with this? I don't like the way you spoke to her. That was disrespectful. That was unkind. Maybe ignore it. Maybe even put a little dharma on top of it. You get it? You see in this very simple demonstration how the suffering, the challenges of this on both sides, all sides. Cognitive mind has not yet learned how to be with the beautiful monster, with the felt sense. We are learning how to turn toward in our own good time with our own pacing. We are learning how, ultimately, in our own time, to hold that which is difficult. I'm going to end by sharing words from Jeff Foster. Fall in love with the darkness, the shadows, the hidden parts, the parts we hide out of shame. Fall in love with the innocence, our childhood fears of the dark, of being exposed, of showing ourselves, being seen, coming into the light, the doubts, the secret pains, our strange fantasies, feelings we don't know what to do with, terror of the nighttime, the rage that bubbles just under the surface, the fear that we are not lovable, the feelings and thoughts we conceal to maintain the image of me, to be good, to be nice, to be spiritual, to be the one who can hold it all together. Fall in love with this secret humanity. Know that darkness is not darkness, only sacred fragments longing to come into the light. Beings who want love and attention and breath and inclusion into the larger picture of self. Do not seek the light, friend. Simply be the light. Be what you are, the light of life, and have the courage to shine fully on the sore places, the tender places. Illuminate, radiate. Make it safe for the little monsters to come out. Let them know that they are beautiful and worthy and not monsters at all.